Welcome once again to On the Land. On the Land is a program all about farmers, for farmers, and we're hoping those who are supporting farming will also get a lot out of it. Bottom line is that we spend an hour here on Country Television, at least once a week, and at this time every week, to explain to you some of the information that you are going to need. For example, we look at cropping, we look at horticulture, we look at animal health, we look at some of the characters who are farming, but most importantly we bring a lot of information to you because it is absolutely totally vital that you know exactly what is going on. For example, farm accounting. Now there's a minefield. You can get into all sorts of trouble with farm accounting if you don't know, for example, all the rules and regulations when it comes to employees and the PAYE and all those other different things that keep coming into a conversation. You are not expected to be able to pick it up naturally or by osmosis. So On the Land is filling in that gap and giving you the advice and giving you the questions that you should be asking your chartered accountant. We've also got opportunities to give you an idea of some of the packages that you can use for your farm accounting, like for example MIOB or Mind Your Own Business, because they have got packages that makes your job so much easier. So let's have a wee look at some of the stories we did last year so you can get a bit of an idea of what's coming. For example, Ashley Dean. Ashley Dean taking a whole new look at itself.
It has. We're here at the Ashley Dean Research and Development Station on the dairy part. This was previously the Ashley Dean dryland farm for more than a century. And over the past 3 years, about 200 hectares of land has been developed into an irrigated dairy block with some irrigated sheep as well.
It's right up there as far as processes are concerned.
It is. What we've developed on the dairy part here is a facility to support farm systems dairy research, exploring options and solutions for dairy farmers to drive profitability and improved environmental outcomes.
You're looking at feed systems as well as other things?
We are looking at all those things. So the facilities that we've developed here are, we've got a milking shed, we've got standoff pad facilities which have various materials within them, and feeding facilities where cows come on and off the paddock for short periods of time, in line with increasing their productivity as well as improving their environmental footprint.
Tell me about the standoff pads because they've got different surfaces.
So what we have is we have a range of standoff pad facilities, and it's particularly directed towards winter feeding systems where some of our environmental losses of nitrogen are particularly large, and exploring options to get cows off paddocks for short periods of time. So what we have is we have standoff pads with wood chip in them. We have some with some gravel, experimenting with different sizes of gravel, and we also have some with a geotextile carpet on top of it. And we've been looking at, over this past winter, exploring options for cows coming off the paddock, had fodder bed in the paddock coming off, essentially over the nighttime period, and looking at their lying and standing times and the behaviour on these standoff pad facilities.
This is very scientific, though, isn't it?
It is, in contrast to the other farms that Lincoln University has back at right by the campus of Lincoln University on the very good soils. This is on a very light stony soil with low water holding capacity, which presents challenges around growing feed, your pasture production, and challenges around your environmental losses because they're very prone to drainage of nitrogen, of nitrate to soil water. So it is a significant challenge here to provide solutions for farmers within that context.
You've got laboratories.
We have, we've established some pretty basic laboratory facilities here for staff from Lincoln University and their collaborative partners to work in. Includes wet and dry labs, includes seminar rooms for bringing outside organisations in to discuss the results from our research and for that technical transfer aspects.
Would it pay for itself?
The development here is focused on farm systems research, And so in terms of paying for itself, we have a dairy farm, so we receive money from our milk sales. But a real priority of ours at the university is driving collaborative research programs. So Link University does receive income from those research programs, but what is really important is that we actually provide solutions for our farmers around productivity, profit and environmental performance.
You're really very much a key player when it comes to dairying on light land.
Look, yeah, I think we're a key player not only for the dairy conversions which maybe come up in the future, but we're also a key player for providing solutions for those farmers that are facing environmental challenges under the current nutrient limits. So through time, many farmers will be asked to reduce nitrate leaching in line with regional council policies, and we hope to be at the forefront in providing leadership for those solutions.
Well, I guess you're leading from the front.
Leading from the front, it's very much where Link University, in conjunction with its collaborative partners, particularly associated with the Lincoln Hub, which is developing to a large extent, providing a resource for those partners to come here and work on this farm from a research and farm systems point of view.
And from dry land dairy farming and science to the science of winemaking. Lincoln University is doing some work on the vineyard about timing.
Yeah, I'm working on the phenological development, so different timing of different varieties in terms of when they flower, when they start at the beginning of the maturation period, but also what's coming up soon in the vineyard when they bud burst, the beginning of the growing season.
You've got some interesting varieties. You've got Viognier and Chardonnay, and you've still got Müller-Thurgau.
So I haven't actually used the historical, well, collecting data now a wee bit on this vineyard here, so it'll be interesting to see how the timing of these varieties perform. A lot of the work we've done is on historical data, particularly international data, where they've got years of information in terms of timing of phenology on varieties such as Müller-Thurgau, Viognier, Chardonnay and the like.
Are you expecting to find that all the different varieties have got their own time clock?
So we do know that they all have their different time clocks. So for example, in any given vineyard you'll have different timing between varieties of bud burst or flowering or veraison. So for example, Pinot Noir, it goes through flowering before, say, Cabernet Sauvignon, a variety that you'll find further up north in New Zealand.
Is climate a factor?
Climate is a key driver of our phenological models. So we spend a lot of time developing models to predict the timing of those key events using temperature as a key driver. So internationally that's important in the face of climate change. So there's a lot of questions. Are current varieties that we have planted now in certain regions going to be suitable in the future in that region, or do we need to start looking at varieties that are better adapted to warmer temperatures and perhaps develop later during the season?
You have people like Jim Grierson who will say that the season's 10 days behind or it's 10 days ahead.
So I think that's also a characteristic of cool climate viticulture. There's a lot of variability in our seasons, so incorporating that understanding of what's an average developmental time and then what's the variability around that time's a key part of our investigations. Can we predict with our models a huge variation in timing as well?
So what can you change with human input?
So in terms of looking at changes in development, there are management practices we can use, or changing varieties of course is your biggest change, looking at shifting what you have planted, but that's a big consideration given that a vineyard's relatively long term in terms of how long we want to keep the vines in the ground before changing them over. So alternatively we have got some what we might consider more short term adaptations that we can use, for example canopy manipulations, pruning, there's also growth regulators as well, and a lot of the work that we've done is looking at canopy manipulation, whether or not we can delay the timing of particularly later events in the season, such as the start of maturation and the maturation period itself.
We're in a region that gets frosts. Can you delay flowering?
In terms of flowering, research by other people, ex-university students, has shown that they can delay the timing of bud burst with a small shift in flowering, but flowering is perhaps the phenological stage that's least prone to shifting by human intervention. We're more likely to shift the onset of ripening and that ripening period through, say, canopy manipulation.
You're talking about manipulating the canopy. What are you actually doing?
So trimming, so reducing the height of the canopy, leaf plucking, that's often used in the fruiting zone actually to open up and aerate the canopy. So perhaps doesn't necessarily manipulate the timing unless you do it severely, in terms of what we use in standard industry practice. Crop removal, so that can actually enable you to speed up the ripening period. So in the cool climate, sometimes we actually, if we've got a limited season in terms of having a cool year, dropping crop might be a tool in the toolbox to sort of accommodate and speed up that
So that
ripening
you're
phase.
thinning then in that stage?
Thinning, yeah. So those are some of the key approaches to use in terms of shifting how those later events happen in the season.
Are you able to make it either early or late?
So trimming, you're removing leaves, so there's less leaves to provide sugars predominantly to the berries. So you're actually slowing the developmental period. And dropping crop, you're just reducing the number of fruit on the vine that require those sugars, so therefore it can go on a bit quicker.
So you can do both?
You can do both.
And of course, winemaking is a very important subject for us all. We'll be back straight after the break.
Not sure how to brighten up your backyard? Try Grow Sure Easy Flowers, all in one mix. Seed, feed, mulch. It's bloomin' easy. Be sure with Grow Sure from KiwiCare.
Everybody has a story to tell. What's yours? Maybe your family has been farming the land for 5 generations. Perhaps you have invented the next best thing in agriculture, or maybe something else. Whatever your story, if you're out on the land, we want to hear from you. Get in touch by emailing us at info@ontheland.co.nz.
You know that saying, content is king? Well, in today's mixed media world, it's true. You need video, audio, photos and more for social media, for marketing, for communications, sales and for advertising. And you need this at a price that works with your budgets. Well, that's what we do. At Tandem, we partner with you to create the content that you can use to shout to the world or video link to a few. Connect with us and we'll help you connect to the world.
We're living on a planet facing almost insurmountable challenges. Challenges we have to face sooner rather than later. The world needs our energy. She needs our ideas, our passion. It's up to us to change things, make a positive change to the planet, to feed the world, to protect the future, to live well, to be the generation that will make a change. Join us.
Not sure why your camellias aren't cooperating? Try Grow Sure Planting Magic, packed full of nutrients in just one handful. Be sure with Grow Sure from KiwiCare.
Production-wise, there's a computer system that's been developed by FAR. It's ideal for tracking what's happening as far as your silos are concerned in grain storage.
Yes, we have. It's got a grain store section in it, which is basically a grain inventory. When a farmer sets up his paddocks, he can set up his silos. So however many silos he has on the farm and how many tons that they hold, he can set them up. And then the two systems, the paddock diary and the grain store, link when he harvests from his paddock diary. The grain moves to the store waiting to have something done to it.
Once again, this is important for compliance.
It's really inventory because farmers will need to know where their store is. They have to number their silos, that's part of compliance as well. And they have to know, obviously, which crop has gone into which silo. And records are related to what they do with that grain in the silo. So when they clean the silo out at the beginning of the season, they can record it and report it. And when they check the grain during the season, you know, the moisture of it, if it's got pests in it, have they treated it? Again, this is all part of the reporting that goes on to that vendor declaration with the crop recording diary that goes to the end user. So the grain store is crucial for traceability, and they can also set up their contracts and sales through it. So it's a little complex system on its own, but also it links to the diary side.
Is it really important to know what paddock the grain came from and what happened to it?
For traceability, yes, yeah. And if they've got a problem, if you had a problem with, I don't know, a weed like velvet leaf has been all in the air recently, you'd need to know which paddock that came from so that you can check it for next year in case it comes again.
So you can have a look at your silo and say in that particular silo certain sprays were used and certain fertiliser was used.
Yes, yeah. The vendor declaration form that pulls together both the grain store information, what's happened with it in the store, it brings in what's happened when it's been growing. So it all comes together on one report with no money, doesn't bring the gross margin dollars onto this. It links automatically the active ingredients. So the end user knows that for the food chain and for the Northern Hemisphere seeds, what's actually happened when they've grown that crop.
When the grain leaves the farm, what, you just give somebody a printed off report?
Yep, easily, and print it off and pass it to the person who's buying your grain or seed.
And once again, it all just totally ties in with the compliance reports, apps on cell phones and farm computers.
Yes, it's simple. What we're trying to do is a simple system that farmers can just do it on the go and they tick all the boxes with it.
Something many of us don't think about is the summer and hair. Philippa, shampoos and conditioners, how do they work?
A shampoo is designed to cleanse the hair. We like to lather the shampoo up when you're in the cleansing process, leave the shampoo on for a minute and then rinse off so that it's good cleansing action for the hair. With the conditioner, conditioner is designed to shut the top layer of the hair off, which is the cuticle layer, smooth it down so we get really hydrated, healthy, shiny hair.
Is there a big range of good and bad?
Massive, absolutely massive. There is some shampoos that contain a truckload of parabens and sulfates, so they cause skin irritation and dryness of the hair. Of course, our products being sustainable, natural, organic, there is no parabens and sulfates in there.
Hair colouring, do we or don't we?
Absolutely, we all want to look 20 years younger or even 10 years younger. Some people, like George Clooney, can rock the grey. There's a lot of men that like a 10-minute sort of refresh of colour just to camouflage the grey. Hair colouring can be fun.
And looking after it?
Looking after it it's really easy. You always purchase a product that's got UV filters in the conditioner, and of course there's like low alkaline shampoos and conditioners that protect the hair against all the elements, and blow drying as well.
Ah, yes. Septic tanks and things like shampoos and conditioners.
That's a really interesting one. Going back to what we use, our company can trace where all their products go through all the grey water waste. So it's perfectly harmless in our waterways and septic tanks because it's a sustainable, natural, organic.
So you're suggesting you don't buy on price?
Absolutely not. We buy on quality and what we can do for our environment.
How often should we be getting our hair cut?
So on average, hair growth, it's 3/4 of a centimetre every 6 weeks. So, like we generally recommend every 5 to 6 weeks. With some men that we have, they like to get their hair cut once a week. So whatever floats the boat really, and how you want to look.
And what happens to the people with very, very long hair?
What happens there, and that's it, they tend to get split ends. Some people, even the split ends form a form of like dreadlocks, and the hair starts matting together. So generally, you know, like a nice trim every 6 to 8 weeks, so it keeps the ends healthy.
Do we as a nation look after our hair?
As a nation, I'd like to think that yes, we looked after our hair, but then we compare us to Europe, where the European people tend to invest more in their whole total appearance, whereas we're very casual, more lived in looking. So it would be nice to think that some people do invest heavily, which is nice, and other people it's just something that grows on their head.
Barbers, there's a swing back to barbers.
Oh, absolutely. Male grooming is on a huge wave, so and we're hoping to capture some of that wave. But you know, male grooming, it's always nice to see a man well dressed and good haircut and really good shave.
Barbers, that's a new breed, it's not the old short back and size for 2 and 6.
Absolutely not. But in saying that, you've got some looks that have got a really good fade, you know, like going from skin to a little bit of hair through the back and the sides, and you know, like back to the 1950s, sort of good haircut there. And then you've got some people that still like the mullet. You've got some farmers that just want to chuck a beanie on it. So, yeah.
And from hair to brown fat. Now, brown fat is still very important.
Yeah, brown fat and lamb's still important. We're really interested in lamb survival still. We think that that's one of the areas where we'll get increase in productivity. And so if you've got lambs that have got adequate brown fat and can mobilise that brown fat to generate heat, then you're going to improve lamb survival. So it's still very much a hot topic of research to us.
Can we just recap on exactly what brown fat is and what it does?
So we've changed our opinion of what brown fat is. We used to think that brown fat was like the deposits that are only found in young animals. But we now know that brown fat's found in a number of places and not just in the very young. And it seems to be there as a chief controller of thermoregulation, or you know, it controls our heat generation systems, and it persists through early life. So young animals have that ability to sort of increase their thermogenesis, increase their heat production, and that's one of their ways of surviving cold challenges. Provided they've got feed available, they can use that energy to create heat. The process by which they do that's quite an interesting piece of metabolism, because it's called uncoupling. And basically it's like a futile cycle. They take energy and they just burn it to produce heat. And that's sort of like they have a little internal furnace. Not quite so important in ruminants as in other animals, but because the ruminants have their rumen, which generates a huge amount of heat too. But for a young animal where its rumen hasn't fully developed, a lamb after birth, then having that ability to generate heat is critically important for survival.
And we really do need to develop it as part of our production drive here in New Zealand.
Yeah, it's something where we know the genes involved in the processes, we know there's variation in those genes. It's something I think we need to put a big emphasis in sheep breeding on, trying to get lambs that are much more robust at birth. We see large numbers of deaths at times. People associate it with cold weather, and we say, oh well, it's the weather to blame, but it's actually as much to do with the livestock. And there's a number of factors. A key one's birth weight. We know that if you have higher birth weights, then you're less likely to have lamb deaths. But then it's getting lambs that can actually use the fat they've got, use the energy, metabolise it, and produce heat, and get up and we talk about teat-seeking behaviour. They can latch on quickly and get their first feed, and so it's sort of all part of a complex system to improving lamb survival. Can we breed for it? Yeah, we can breed for it. We know for starters that there's obviously breeds of sheep that produce bigger lambs, and that's got to be balanced against fertility and fecundity, getting the right number of lambs on the ground. So as your triplet numbers go up, or you get more quads, and then lamb size comes down, so they become more vulnerable again. So there's a sort of a balancing act between getting lots of lambs and getting lambs that are the right size to survive. But then even within individual animals, there are genes that control thermogenesis, and we can actually selectively breed for animals that are more robust, are less likely to not be able to generate heat, and thus less likely to die if there's a thermal challenge.
And I guess as sheep farming goes further and further back into the hills, that this becomes more important.
Yeah, I think so. That's a bit of hooks and catches too, though, because I mean, in the high countries, you get into the hills, there's more scrub and there's more cover, there's more valleys and so on that they can get into. So you can get shelter that you wouldn't have out on open plains. And what you're talking about there is wind run, so there's often more shelter from the wind in the hills if they can get down into the valleys and the gullies and into the scrub, versus being out on an open plain where we've taken all the windbreaks out or not looked after them, those sorts of things. So yeah, it sort of swings and roundabouts on that one.
You've done a lot of research with the Romney breeders. They're onto it.
Yeah. So the Romneys are really robust. We know that if we take one of the gene tests we use, they're right at the top end with that. And my point to them always is you don't actually have to breed for it because you guys are on the front foot. But in the Romney trial work we're doing, we're getting average lamb birth weights that are close to 6 kilograms per lamb. We've had twin lambs coming out over 6 kilograms each, so the ewes carrying 12 kilograms of lamb, and we try and get the triplets up over 4 kilograms. So and we're not seeing huge amounts. People talk about dystocia or birthing difficulties, but we're not seeing that. And part of the thing there is that's about breeding a good ewe. You've got to breed a ewe that can actually carry more lambs and can get them out. So she's got a big enough birth canal that they come out okay too. So there's a design thing, if you like, with the ewe to get a ewe that actually births well, and ewes that are too small in the back end that have lambs that are too big in the shoulders, and it just doesn't work.
And of course, it's been a pretty tough old year as far as nutrition for the ewes is concerned.
Yeah, it has been a tough year, and I mean, I haven't heard too many scanning percentages coming in yet, but there's a bit of a hint there that it's going to be hard, especially in North Canterbury and those East Coast regions where we've had those big drought hits, that the ewes will be the ones that smart farmers will have dealt to that and made sure that those ewes were good going forward, and that the lambs and the hoggets are wearing the cost of a feed shortage. But I suspect we'll see a little bit of a decline, especially through North Canterbury and ewe performance this year.
Brown fat isn't just a focus for you as far as sheep are concerned. There's also a situation with dairy cows.
Yeah, so different thing. We know as dairy cows get stressed, I mean, it's seen globally, as dairy cows are producing milk, if there's a heat stress, then their productivity drops away. And it's a similar system again. What's happening there is that those cows lose the ability to actually dissipate heat. So it's sort of the opposite end of the spectrum, and similar processes involved, and we're trying to find out if we can find cows that have the ability to dissipate heat and actually ramp up their production as well. So it's the same sort of metabolic systems that we're looking at, but the different outcome. We want cows that are putting all their energy into their milk. They're not at risk of a thermal challenge from being cold, but they're at risk from being too hot. Not something you typically see in New Zealand. You need high levels of humidity, so what you're seeing in temperate climate dairy production is unlikely to be a heat stress effect, but as you go into tropical dairy production, you start to see these heat stress effects coming in.
So really it's more than just shelter belts and shade trees.
I think it's more than that, yeah. It's to do with how they actually utilise their energy, how they partition the energy to milk production versus heat generation, and how they alter their heat generation in response to the challenge of lactation, I think is, and it's a cow by cow thing, so it's a thing that's genetic, and so we've got to unpick what's happening there yet, but I think we'll be starting to breed cows one day who are less susceptible to heat stress and can be productive even when they do go under some sort of stress.
In just a moment, a family contracting business. How did you get into contracting?
Well, I left school and then always did the silage and digger work and stuff for our own farm, and then it just all escalated. And a few neighbours would ask me, could you come and do my wee bit of silage because the other contractor can't get here, and so then that's how it became into it, and just carried on from there really.
The family sort of hired you out.
Yeah, they did, yeah. So it sort of started off, you're doing it all for the family, and then obviously, time's getting on, the gear gets dearer, and wanted better gear, so we had to try and justify having good gear for the farm. And so we went out and tried to just do a wee bit to help justify having good gear, yeah.
So really your whole operation is working with the family property and the family businesses?
Oh, definitely, yeah. Like at the end of the day, we are all family, and we do I do all the farm's silage and digger work. But yeah, like, and if the farm needs me, I'll be out there helping feed the cows, you know, in the weekends and stuff. And then, you know, when I get stuck, which is quite often, Andrew and brother and the old man come and drive a truck or tractor for me when I'm busy, and yeah, we're working real well together, yeah.
So no doubt you're pretty good at making silage because you grew up making it.
Yeah, oh, definitely, yeah. And, you know, like learning off the dad and grandfather and, you know, all of those guys, you know, over the years is, yeah, that's how I got to where I am and know how they want it, because having their own farm, they told me, you know, we want the best silage you could possibly make. And if you don't do it the best, don't do it at all. And so that's how we got to that, and yeah, that's how it's become, yeah.
Now your gear isn't colossal, but I guess that's an advantage.
Oh, it definitely is, yes. Like, our gear's not massive out there nowadays, but we have grown since where we started, but we not big like some of the other contractors, because there's a lot of small farms around Rangiora, and they don't have the big paddocks like out there, and so we sort of fit into them nicely, you know, because quite often we'll just go to a wee dairy farm and do, you know, day's work, just make a wee silage pit and then move on, and being able to fit around them in between their schedules works really well for us, yeah.
So obviously you dig holes and move stuff around.
Yes, yeah, we got two 12-ton diggers, plus a 3-tonner, and we chase the irrigation specialist around, which is Doug Goodwin, and yeah, quite often, well, for the last two years at least, 3 years nearly, we've been busy installing centre pivots, and so we've been flat out with that, and I've got the main man Lindsay, yeah, he's done it all from the get-go, and just, yeah, so it's been real good. So, and then on the odd side we do foundations for houses, cow sheds, and yeah, it just sort of keeps us busy, you know, like keeps the using the trucks to the potential, because, you know, obviously we have our own trucks for silage, but there's not enough work just for silage, so we need extra work to justify owning them. So that's when that sort of comes in, chasing the diggers around, and yeah, it works really well, yeah.
You're still a small unit?
Yeah, still very, you know, out there we're still quite small. You know, at the moment there's only 3 of us working, but it's good, you know, we're still small, but we can still take on reasonably sized jobs, because I've got a lot of staff I can just call upon one night and they'll be here the next day, so it works in really well, yeah.
I was going to ask you about the silage season, because you need a lot of hands when you hit that.
Yes, definitely, yeah. It gets chaotic in silage, and works real well because I've got a lot of older fellas which are real good, and I can just ring upon them when I need them, and then when I don't need them they're quite happy to sit at home, so it works in really well, yeah.
And I guess they're all old farmers, so they basically know what's involved with making excellent silage.
Yeah, they are. They're all retired dairy farmers and sheep farmers, and yeah, they know exactly what they need and what has to be done, and they're not scared to put in extra effort and help out, you know, and it works really well, yeah.
What do you advise somebody who loves machinery and wants to have a go?
Yeah, go for it. That's all how I started. I loved machinery, and I was mad on tractors, and it's just gone from there really, and that's how it's escalated and bigger and better things, and yeah, and I'm always for, you know, getting guys out. I got went to St Andrews College in town, and I had quite a lot of townie mates, and I used to drag them out and make them drive tractors around, and yeah, I got a couple of guys quite hooked on it, and they actually worked for me for a couple of seasons, and yeah, they loved it, so it was good, yeah.
And of course you've got huge amounts of support from your parents.
Yeah, oh, definitely, yeah, that, you know, if it wasn't for them I wouldn't be here, so and yeah, they've helped me from the get-go, and Mum's been real good on the book side of things, because I'm absolutely terrible, and yeah, it works really good, yeah.
After the break, how you can make money by relaxing.
Not sure how to brighten up your backyard? Try Grow Sure Easy Flowers, all in one mix. Seed, feed, mulch. It's bloomin' easy. Be sure with Grow Sure from KiwiCare.
Everybody has a story to tell. What's yours? Maybe your family has been farming the land for 5 generations. Perhaps you have invented the next best thing in agriculture, or maybe something else. Whatever your story, if you're out on the land, we want to hear from you. Get in touch by emailing us at info@ontheland.co.nz.
You know that saying, content is king? Well, in today's mixed media world, it's true. You need video, audio, photos and more for social media, for marketing, for communications, sales and for advertising. And you need this at a price that works with your budgets. Well, that's what we do. At Tandem, we partner with you to create the content that you can use to shout to the world or video link to a few. Connect with us and we'll help you connect to the world.
We're living on a planet facing almost insurmountable challenges. Challenges we have to face sooner rather than later. The world needs our energy. She needs our ideas, our passion. It's up to us to change things, make a positive change to the planet, to feed the world, to protect the future, to live well, to be the generation that will make a change. Join us.
Not sure why your camellias aren't cooperating? Try Grow Sure Planting Magic, packed full of nutrients in just one handful. Be sure with Grow Sure from KiwiCare.
First question is really quite simple. What is it that we're going to be doing?
We're going to be doing a thing called access bars. And it's basically a process where we touch 32 different points on your head relating to various areas of your life, and that helps to release and remove anything that's holding you back in that particular area. Like for instance, up here is the money bar. So if you've got any worries, any concerns, any issues about money that you're willing to let go or not willing to let go, you're able to change things there much more easily without having to deal with analysis and a huge amount of thought.
There's going to be a large percentage of the population, Marky, who are going to say this is all snake oil stuff.
Yes, there is. However, there's a neuroscientist in the States that experienced this process and was so taken with the results that he got from it that he's doing a scientific study about it, which proves that it actually does what we say it does. The study is due to come out in probably a month or so, and until that we can't officially say that it does what we know it does.
Is it sort of like Reiki, where you touch your feet and that helps you with your liver? My liver probably needs a lot of touching.
Well, access is, touching your hands on your head, and it is energy work, and it will change things. So in that respect, it is similar to Reiki.
Now, you and your daughter were heavily into it, but how did it start?
We got involved through my daughter coming home after being off dancing on a cruise ship, saying, "Mum, I'm off to this course in Wellington." And I went, "Oh, what is it?" And she said, "Access bars." And I said, "What's that?" She said, "Not entirely sure, but it's good and I'm going." And I said, "Okay, I haven't seen you for 6 or 9 months, I'll come with you." And we went to this class, and it was a day of bliss, basically experiencing the bars and receiving the bars. Even though we weren't exactly sure what we were doing, we came out of it going, "Oh, this is so much fun, this is so cool, let's do some more." And so we got hooked on the journey, and we went on to learn more about access consciousness and the tools and the various modalities and the body work that you can do, as well as just the hands-on head process, which is the foundation and the first thing that you learn in bars, and one of the most useful things that we have that we can help people with.
Maggie, can anybody do it? I mean, could I learn to do all this stuff?
Anybody can do it. There's bars practitioners, that people that can do it on you and for you, or there's bars facilitators, people that can teach you how to do it, so then you can do it with your friends and family and anybody you like as well. And takes a day to learn it, but the good thing about that is that you get to receive the bars twice and gift the bars twice, so it's another day that's just amazing. You're lying there and relaxing and receiving and learning at the same time.
Now, there is a lot of stress, especially in the rural community. What are you doing to get what you're doing through to those people?
Well, it's the case that anybody can do it, so if someone is willing to stay still for an hour or so and have someone come and facilitate them, they can show them how to do the bars, they can run the bars on them. The other part of Access is some questions that we can give to them so that it can help them adapt, or not so much adapt, but cope better with daily life.
You talked about money. What other aspects are there?
There's money, there's body, there's sexuality, there's the earth, our connection with the earth. Access is really big on connecting with the earth and treating it right and being aware of the earth and what the earth is asking of us as well as what we're asking of it. So that's
So I suppose in modern computer terms it's defragging.
Yeah, defragging your brain. That's just a really good way of putting it. It gets out all the junk and then we press the save button at the end, and that can keep all the changes that we've made so that you don't revert back to old patterns and old things.
I'll tell you what was really interesting, because at one point you did something or other and both my fingers really started to tingle. And those are the two fingers that I type with, and I'm afraid I'm a heavy typer.
Well, the fact is that all parts of our body are linked, and this is energy work, so it shows up in different areas and different parts of our body depending on where we've stored things. We tend to stash pain in various parts of our body and different experiences in various parts of our body, and this energetic work helps to release that and allow the energy to flow and things to change for you. And maybe you're going to be typing faster now, Rob.
So how often should somebody get a treatment?
As often as people want to. Generally, you find that the practitioners, we like to receive it as often as we can, but generally in most cases it's weekly or fortnightly, whatever works for you. And local practitioners often have bars swap evenings, so people can come along and trade bars. So you've learned how to do the bars, you come along, a whole lot of different people are there, you trade bars with me tonight, the next week you might trade with someone else. And the beauty of that is that you and I will have certain points of view and certain things that are similar, and while I am gifting to you, I'm also changing things in my life, which is why people like to do it and gift it to different people. So the other thing is that we swap with different people as often as we can so that we get different areas of life changing and different things moving.
Margie, is it tiring for you, because you do several of these treatments per day?
For us, no, it's not tiring at all. It's a case of you working with energy. We're pulling it through ourselves. We're not actually dissipating any of our energy. And in fact, you'll find that we're probably more energised after gifting bars.
Is it fair to say that what you're doing is you're channeling the person's energies?
I'm not sure quite how to describe it, Rob. It's a case of we are just gently touching your head so that I think your own energy is probably stimulated. We can also ask for more energy to come from the universe, being asked to add energy in if people need it, but generally most people have energy, and once it's flowing and unstuck, then life changes considerably.
And it's got nothing to do with religion?
We're just allowing the body to get unstuck and the pathways to open up, and there is no religion, there is no mention of God anywhere at all, so it's completely non-secular.
There are a lot of people who are doing it around the world, but how do you get past that this is way out?
I think you offer, well, I personally offer people the chance to experience it and try it, and some people go, oh wow, what did you do to me, that was amazing, and other people go, not for me, and that's fine. Not everybody will really want to do this, but it's not many people I've had that haven't actually said, oh, I'll come back for another session.
I guess it's a bit like hypnosis. Some people can go down and other people refuse to.
I think so, yes. I've had one friend that actually sort of wanted to know what was going on and didn't necessarily want to relax and just enjoy the experience. And that's fine too. There's no right or wrong thing to do when you're having your bars run. You can talk, you can be quiet, you can watch TV. The only thing that we don't do is have music playing, because we tend to associate things with music, and it can lock us into various memories and things that then we can't let go and can't change that.
And it is worldwide, and it really is catching on.
It is. It's in 170 odd countries all around the world. People just love the processes and the tools that it offers, and the ease that they have with their lives. I mean, my daughter's in Europe at the moment in a series of classes over there.
I suppose it's don't knock it until you've tried it.
That's right, don't knock it and come and relax and enjoy. Worst case scenario, you'll feel like you've had a great massage.
And from relaxing to drinking wine. Nick, what sort of season have you been having?
Oh, it's been a fantastic season, Rob. We've got more wine in the winery than we've ever had before, so really excited by that. And really beautiful ripe characters in the Pinot. The seeds are lignified, which means they're a nice sort of brown colour and have a beautiful nutty flavour and tannin. That's what gives us the elegant sort of Pinots that we're looking to develop here in Waipara. The whites have got beautiful acid and length. So we've got a very excited winemaker in the winery, which is always good. If the winemaker's got a sad face, we all start to worry a little bit, but he's sort of still skipping around the winery after doing nearly 12 weeks of constant work. So yeah, really excited about Vintage 16 for us.
So there's quality and quantity.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Sometimes it's a little bit of a, I guess, you know, sometimes when the yield is down, the quality's higher and vice versa. And that is a good rule of thumb sometimes, but in this season, particularly, it's just been such a fine autumn. We had 3 mils of rain over vintage, which obviously has other repercussions. You know, a drought's not good for any plants or animals. But for that critical period over harvest, beautiful for us, and just we were able to get everything off just so clean and beautiful. It's really looking awesome.
Have you got another champion Pinot Noir coming up through?
Yeah, well, time will tell. These wines are now in a barrel, and they'll go through winter, just sort of sitting quietly in a barrel, go through Malo in the spring, and then be bottled just before and after the next vintage, depending on which brand it is and which wine we've made. And then it's quite a long time, another 6 months or so, until we really start looking at them. So, yeah, a little way away, but we're quietly hopeful of some really great wines in a bottle.
Now, you said something interesting in that sentence about what happens in the spring.
Oh, yeah, malolactic. So at the moment, the wines are in the barrel. They've gone through primary fermentation, and the yeast we use all wild yeast. We don't introduce any commercial yeast into the wines. So they've converted all of the sugar to alcohol, and one of the byproducts, well, 2 of the byproducts is alcohol and carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide blows away, and obviously the alcohol's retained. But at the moment, the wines are quite sharp on the palate, because you've still got a large amount of what's called malic acid in the wine, and then as the wines warm up in the barrel, malic's converted to lactic acid, and the wines become much more sort of together as a whole flavour, and the palate gets a lot softer. So red wines always go right through Malo, and that, you can speed it up. You know, modern winemaking, you're able to warm them up and seed them and all this sort of thing, but you know, we've run both Greystone and Muddy Water organically, and it's quite hands-off traditional winemaking. So traditionally, as spring comes and summer, the wines warm up, the bacteria that drives Malo will start by itself and bring that change in the wine naturally. So that's the way we do it. Yeah.
Yeah, there is a lot in it, isn't there, Nick?
Yeah, there is. There's a lot of it's patience and trusting in nature, in the wines themselves and the grapes. I think if you're able to deliver grapes to the winery in really great condition, the wines, they say great wine makes itself, that's not true, but if you are able to give it, you know, the conditions and the time to just do its thing naturally, it's going to be, you know, a beautifully integrated wine rather than sort of trying to push it and jam it into places it doesn't want to go. Yeah.
And now you're pruning?
Yes, just started pruning last week, and it's cold this morning. It's only about 6 degrees at the moment, so it sort of feels like it's pruning weather now. So we start pruning on high blocks that aren't affected by spring frost, because generally the blocks that you prune first burst earliest. So we wouldn't like to prune blocks and get them to burst early down on the flats where you're more likely to have a frost problem. Yeah, so the guys are out there pruning now. We just start off slowly. Often only doing half days to give people's hands a chance to acclimatise to that repetitive work. And then as the season progresses, they'll be doing probably around about 40 hours a week pruning. But, in inclement weather, we try not to work if it's pouring rain or snowing unless we're really behind. So that's a good day to go home and sit by the fire.
I guess the vines really do need to have a winter.
Yeah, they definitely need a winter. The cold period and the dormancy is an important part of a vine's physiology, and it also helps with pest and disease control a little bit as well. But once a vine's completely dormant and no leaves and the wood's fully lignified, which is when the canes are nice and brown, then vines can easily go down to minus 15 degrees, no problems at all. So they love a cold, wet winter. So fingers crossed, we're obviously in basically the second year of a drought at the moment. And although grapevines or grapes and viticulturists and winemakers, we love a dry autumn over that picking period, apart from that, they're like any other crop and they really need rain. So yeah, fingers crossed for a really wet winter. Wet, cold winter is what we're looking for, yeah.
Marketing wise, you've got a big focus overseas?
Yes, yeah, overseas is a really important part of our business. We started off in New Zealand only and then grew into Australia and now across many countries in the world, and our sales and marketing managers currently in the second week of a trip in China. So yeah, it's been really interesting learning about the different countries' requirements and even their trading terms and their traditions, and how you deal with a Chinese wine buyer is completely different to how you would obviously deal with someone in Nantucket or something like that. So that's been a very interesting and challenging part of our business, but we feel we're now starting to get a really good handle on it, and being able to service those markets and understand what they want in terms of the wine styles, even down to labelling and whether they want 6 bottles in a box or 12 and how they want it packaged. They're all different, but we're also getting a lot of those wine buyers coming here to this winery right here over vintage, and able to show them how we make the wine and what we do. And I think that's really mind-blowing for some people that might live in a city of 20 million people in the middle of China or something like this, and they come here and we're racing around in the dust picking grapes and making wine and sending it to them in 2 years' time, and it just completes the picture for them, and I think that's really important.
Yeah, it would be. That'd be pretty interesting.
Yeah, it's been... People often say at the end of it, oh, thanks for taking the time to show us around, but it's no problems at all. One, we enjoy it and it makes you think about your business in a different way, but also we know that when people come here and have a really personal experience and we spend time with them, you've basically got a brand ambassador into the future, and they go out and if they're faced with a purchasing decision in the future and they see Greystone Wines, that's the one they're going to choose, or Whiteper or New Zealand, it has a broader sort of context as well. So although I work for Greystone Wines, we're a part of Whiteper in North Canterbury and we're a part of New Zealand. So I think one of the strengths of the wine industry is not really, I don't think there's a lot to be said for competing head to head. We need to work together. We're such a small producer in the world. So, New Zealand as a wine producer, our strength is really in presenting a good face to the market in the globe, yeah.
Nick, we've come a long way from people having a dream about drinking their own wine in the evening and all the plans and budgets were done on the back of an envelope.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. That's the way these things often start. And then necessity means that you have to start getting a little bit more business driven, I guess, and working out where our costs are and how things work. And that's also been a learning curve for me as well, because I came here from Australia in 2004 to plant a vineyard and grow the vineyard. That's sort of what I specialised in back then, but also has been really great to learn more about what drives the business forwards and what its costs are and cost of production and where the profits are to be made and where they're not as well. We've, like all businesses, we've made some mistakes, but I think the important thing is to learn from those mistakes and identify where the strengths of your business are and really work on them. And one of those is the people. What people have you got? What people do you need? Get them around you. You can't go anywhere without great people.
And I guess you're importing some. You've got people who are coming from overseas to help you with the vintage?
Yes, that's right. Yeah, so every vintage we have what we refer to as interns, but they're paid seller staff. We usually have 3 to 4 from overseas. So this year we've had a guy who's actually a sommelier from Paris in France, which has been an interesting experience. He's so passionate about wine and waves his arms around a lot while he's working. And then we've also had a guy from the US and one from Australia. And quite often we have some people from Germany as well. And they bring their own sort of experience to the place. A lot of them are doing 2 vintages a year to try to get their winemaking striped, if you like, more quickly. So they're fresh, they're energetic, got lots of ideas, and they sort of bring a little bit of fresh blood into the really busy environment. They're very passionate, and that's great. You know, it's one of the things that helps us make fantastic wine.
In just a moment, we're talking fertiliser. There's an old saying, Dean, that when money's tight, you've got to think. And so basically, as far as fertiliser is concerned, you do have to.
You do, Rob. You've got to take a step back when things get tight and look at where are you spending your money and where you can get your efficiencies from. What we're finding out there at the moment is that in these tougher times, having the chance to actually look at your whole business and analyse where your costs are coming in and where you can start to make those efficiencies. In terms of the fertiliser side of it, we see in a lot of cases that there has been over the years probably a lot of excess nutrient that's been applied and hasn't been really used to its full potential, probably because in a lot of cases the whole system, biological system, the soil system isn't able to trap that nutrient and use it efficiently. So by just taking a step, looking at the bigger picture and saying, well, what can we do to improve on our soils and our soil biology and get the pasture working more efficiently, you can start to throttle back on some of those nutrient inputs you've been putting in.
People do overlook the soil, even though we know that that's what the plants feed off.
Absolutely. I mean, we've got into a habit of really looking at what the plant needs and what the animal needs. But the reality is none of that starts without a good soil. And within that soil there is a whole ecosystem of microbes and worms and a lot of things that we can't see and what we don't believe is there. If we start to feed that biology, to look after that biology, to treat it with probably the respect that it really deserves, that's where we can get some really big gains in terms of soil structure, soil profile, nutrient being taken up into the plant more efficiently, and that flows into the pasture quality, the pasture palatability, so that when the animals are grazing the pasture, they're getting the most out of it they possibly can.
You'd suggest then that soil tests are vital?
Soil tests are a part of the picture, and they are essential. I think one of the most vital things that most farmers don't use is sitting in their shed, that being a spade, is actually go out and have a dig in your soil, see what your soil's doing, see what your pasture root depth is. Just make sure that you feel comfortable with the whole ecosystem and the biology and the rooting depth and those things that really are going to drive the efficiency of the nutrients that you're putting on. So, but soil tests, it's important to maintain those basic macronutrient element levels. Essential to have the juice there when the motor starts running, but you've really got to get the motor running.
So how do people learn to do that?
By just really getting their hands dirty, getting in touch with preferably a rep from Malin Minerals who can come out with a spade. We always have a spade in the back of our car. Who can walk through a farm with you and just say, let's have a look at the bigger picture. Let's not just look at the numbers, but look at the whole system, what's going on.
So that's a bit of an idea of some of the stories that we'll be bringing you in 2017 and many years beyond that. The interesting thing is that we've been trying to bring you, and I'm sure you will agree, a wide variety of different stories. And the information that you'll be able to glean from those stories, I trust will be very, very helpful to you. It's nice to be able to get out and talk to real New Zealanders who are doing real jobs and bring the science, for example, from Lincoln University to you so that you can understand what the academics are doing, which will, of course, help you in the future. Because the bottom line is that they need to get the information to you as much as you want the information from them. So it really is a win-win situation. We're going to be bringing you some more stories next week, and then straight the following week we're going to be giving you some more studio-based things as well. So Keep in touch with Country TV, but you can also find us, of course, on all our normal media, which is YouTube, our website, which is ontheland.co.nz, and also we will be on Facebook, but as I've said before, isn't everybody. I'm Rob Cope-Williams. You've either been watching or you have just missed On the Land, but I will be back next week.